Hello and welcome to another wonderful episode of the Mixing Glass brought to you by Herd House. That's right. We've got another great resident on from Herd House. Didn't get to catch up when we were all together in Dallas this year, but we thought it would be a good idea to bring him back on for some virtual fun. We're really excited to get into that tonight. But before we do, and my name is Michael Windsor, and I'll be your co-host tonight. Speaking of hosts, please bring on the one and only Mr. Passion in a Polo himself, Mr. Jonathan Mateer.
I forgot who you were. Thank God you remembered to introduce yourself. I'm so proud of you.
Whoops. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Mikel, right? Windsor, is that your name? I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. We had such a good time in Texas. I'm really glad that we get to keep living some of those moments and bringing some of these people back. Chandler was such a fantastic and gracious host for us. So I'm excited to have a good time tonight. I don't know about you.
It's going to be easy with our guests for sure.
Who do we have again?
Oh, you'd like to know? Would you like
to give you, I would love to know, Mike.
Should I give his name as well?
I think you probably should. That was probably the corniest we've ever been at this segue. But
don't say we. Don't say we. That was all you.
Yeah.
Anyway, tonight we're going to be having on Tobias Steeves. And Tobias grew up as a military brat across the country with his 8 siblings, but started his hospitality and bartending journey in downtown Colorado Springs at the Archives, which is an underground cocktail bar, where he cut his teeth as a barback/bartender and was there for several years. Tobias has worked at several other bars over the years and is a member of the US Bartenders Guild. He has also competed in numerous cocktail competitions, and he even won the 2021 Fernet Branca Barback Games. You know we love Fernet.
We do.
He was also
the Barback Games.
In the Barback Games. He was also the runner-up in 2022's Patron Perfectionist, and 2021's Hampton Water Rocking Rose. What is wrong with me tonight? 2021's Hampton Water Rocking Rose by Bon Jovi, and has multiple world-class. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me redo the Tobias.
Reread that paragraph, baby.
I even read it before.
So proud of you,
I read
Windsor. I'm so proud of you.
I'm sorry. I read this before we got started. I don't know why I'm tripping up.
Well, you got to learn how to read first.
Shut up. Tobias has worked at several other bars over the years and is a member of the US Bartenders Guild. He's competed in numerous cocktail competitions and won the 2021 Fernet Branca Barback Games. He was also the runner-up in 2022's Patron Perfectionist, 2021's Hampton Water Rocking Rose by Bon Jovi, and has had multiple world-class by Diageo top 10 and top 30 placements. Hold on, we're halfway there. In 2021, Tobias moved to Spearfish, South Dakota, and after 6 months of living there, he took ownership of a small local Italian restaurant where he began building up the local cocktail and beverage scene through the restaurant. In July of 2025, he built and opened his first cocktail lounge in the basement of the building where his restaurant is still located. Tobias is also a self-proclaimed massive nerd and loves Fernet. My man. Please welcome to the show, Tobias Steeves.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. I love
so excited.
It was a great introduction, and you did so. It was so smooth. It was so
you
smooth.
know, it's even better because you wrote it. Yeah, the smooth
introduction. I just butchered it. That's all. Now,
you know what's crazy?
What?
I've never heard my own writing read back to me. I'm like, dang, I should have rewritten that. That was garbage.
I thought it sounded pretty good, except for the parts where I was talking.
I really love the Diego World Class instead of
Diego World Class.
Okay, I am sorry. You know what? I don't want to read the intros anymore. All right.
Yeah, and subscribe to our Patron instead of Patreon.
Just redo it. Cut it, dump it, redo it.
Oh no, sir. We do it live. But I will save you. I'm gonna save you because we're gonna do a roll for initiative. We'll let you reboot. Take a long rest over there, Mike. We're gonna do a roll for initiative. Tobias, give that 20-sided die a roll, and we got an icebreaker question for you.
Alrighty. Ooh, 2.
Love the roll noise. And this is Mike's favorite question all time.
Is it again?
It's your all-time favorite question. Tobias, would you rather fight 7 geese-sized horses or 1 horse-sized goose?
7 horse-sized geeses.
7 horses. That's terrifying.
It is. Wait. 7 horse-sized.
Yeah, he's going.
I mixed it up. Yeah, let's go. Let's roll with
it. Seven horse geese-sized horses or one horse-sized goose.
Yeah,
if you want to do 7 horse-sized geese, I mean, go for it, man.
Yeah, no. The former, the 7 geese-sized horses.
I agree with you. I think that's at least manageable. I don't know, but 7 horse-sized geeses. Oh my god, Mike, has your opinion changed?
No, well, when you said this was my most beloved question, I thought it was the freaking squirrels again.
That's true. That is your other.
I hate how much I've thought about how many squirrels I can kill in my life. I'm sorry, I've hated it. Yeah, I'm sticking with the goose. I think horses are so powerful. I think that if they were all attacking you, they could. I mean, if they turned around and just started kicking you, some of them get up and pawn you at your face. I think I'm gonna go for one big ass goose and just try and I'm gonna break its neck. That's what I'm gonna go for. Just try and get my hands around its neck.
Straight for the throat. I love it, Mike.
Yeah, that's right.
Hell yeah.
What about you, John?
I'm gonna go with Tobias on this one. I'm gonna fight the 7 horse-sized gooses. I'm gonna go down in flames.
Eventually with AI and virtual reality, we'll be able to actually test this hypothesis before too long.
Yeah, honestly, that's some great bonus content. We could create. We Photoshop our guest face into the fight and see how it goes. Oh no! Oh, horrifying and amazing at the same time. All right, enough of that. We're here to talk about you, Tobias. So we want to know a little bit about your origin story, right? How did you get into the hospitality industry? What was your first job? What had you catch the bug and make you be a lifer here to this point?
And before we get into that, I didn't know, because I've known you for a couple of years now, or at least a full year. Where are you in the list of siblings? I didn't know you had 8 siblings.
Yeah, no, I'm the oldest.
True origin story right here.
Yeah,
yes, the true origin. So back in Georgia, my parents got together. No, so
you were about a glint in your father's eye.
Exactly. We can go all the way back and go from that story. No, I'm the oldest of 8 in my family.
You are the oldest. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. How big of an age difference is there between you and the youngest?
There is a 20-year gap between the oldest and youngest. So
yeah, well, the Steeves name will be going strong for quite a while, I imagine.
Right. Yeah, there's 6 boys, 2 girls, so there's quite a few of us to keep it going.
So are you going to try and outdo that number?
Oh, absolutely not. I've got 1 right now, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can handle much more of this. I love it.
As a father of 1 as well, I sympathize with you. 1 feels great.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so other than having hospitality in your bones from helping, with your family and everything along the way, what was that first job that kind of sucked you in?
So my first hospitality job was barbacking at the cocktail bar, the Archives in Colorado Springs. So I got there I started at home, I should say, just making drinks for my dad. He would come home from work and he'd be like, "Hey, I want a martini. I want to show you how to make it. So when I come home, you can just whip one up if I feel like it." So I learned to make martinis at home, fell in love with it. I was like, this is fun. And then I'd get creative, like, oh, I'm going to add a little bit of this liqueur to it and then see what happens. And then I'd give it to him. And he's like, yeah, it's good, but I just want a plain martini. I was like, okay, cool. But the next time I do the same thing and I try to add something new.
I was about to ask, was he patient with your concoctions?
Say, if I had 8 kids, I'd need a martini when I got home too. I'd actually have each kid make me a martini as the line went down.
So yeah, and that's where it started really. And then I was like, this is kind of fun. So then my dad had one random cocktail book and I read it and I was like, this is cool. And so then I did some research and I found a couple more cocktail books and started reading them and then told my dad, hey, can you go buy me these things? And so I started playing around at home a little bit. And then I hit 21 and was able to start going out to bars. And I wasn't a huge bar goer, but what I did like was spirits tastings. And so there was some local reps that would do regular spirits tastings and I'd go to their, wherever it was held, whatever liquor store was being at, I'd go there, I'd taste it, I'd ask questions, and I'd be like, how is this made? What's the difference? And a lot of the times they were like, oh, I just sell it. I don't actually know, what really goes into it. I was like, cool. But I'm like, I could at least learn a little bit. And then I found one guy, Brad, I'm blanking his name, Brad Beck. And he was a distributor for a small, he was a rep for a small distributor there in Colorado Springs. And he was a huge Scotch nerd, and then like brandy and cognac and stuff. And he was like, hey, you were asking the right questions. Here's some books you should read. And you want to, I think you look at the hospitality industry and look at, bartending, or look at something to do with spirits, because you've got a good, good palate and good, mind for it. And I think you'd fit. So he gave me some books. I went ahead and ordered them on Amazon the next day. I read them all and said, all right, I read these. What next? And he's like, dude, that was like a week ago. And I was like, yeah, like I really want to know this stuff.
I'm hungry, brother. Brad, give me more.
Exactly.
Stuff.
Give me more. It was, it was like Dave Wondrich Imbibe and all these like super nerdy books and Liquid Intelligence. And he's like, dude, you know more than most of the bartenders that I know now just by reading these books, kind of thing. And I was like, cool. What can I do with it? And he's like, well, you need to find a bar. He's like, you need to go work at a bar somewhere. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? And I had never had a job before. I had done photography for, at that point, about 5 years professionally. I'd been doing photography and artwork and, galleries and blah, blah, blah. But I never really had an actual paying, W-2 job. And so he was like, well, here's the bars I would look at. Here's the best bars in the Springs that do cocktail programs. And there was 3 or 4 there that were phenomenal. Most of them are still around, but I went to the archives. I went in, I was like, this is a cool bar. And I met the owner, Dylan Courier, who had the bar for maybe 6 months to a year when I kind of came in. He was just getting started. It was his first bar project, but he was kind of a name already in the Springs. And I said, hey, I'm looking for a job. I want to bartend. And he's like, well, have you ever bartended before? I was like, no. And he's like, how old are you? I'm like, 21. And he goes, yeah, okay. And you want to work here at like one of the best bars in the Springs kind of thing. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, sure. He's like, you have no experience, none of this, not even tested. I was like, no, but I want to learn. And he's like, well, tell you what. And this is my favorite story of how I met Dylan. He's like, do you know what a Vucare is? And I was like, yeah, I know what a Vucare is. And he goes, well, can you make me one? And I was like, yeah. So he like, go behind the bar. So he stumbled behind the bar and I made him a Vucare. And he's like, dude, this is a Vucare. He's like, you made it perfectly. He's like, all right, I'll tell you what, I'll bring you on. It's not, I want to test this, but I'll bring you on as a bar back to start and see where it kind of goes from there. And that's how I got into a bar. And
I love that. I love that he gave you a challenge and you're like, yeah, no, I can do that. And you did it. Like I have watched bar managers interview people gung ho like that before, and they get behind the bar and they don't know how to make any of those drinks, and they walk out the door sad. It's like that's just such a cool story that you're able to execute and crush it.
Well, it's also impressive that yes, you read all this stuff, but to be able to remember all of that and to be able to pull one random drink out of the hat and be able to make it perfectly is impressive.
Yeah, and it was a classics bar. I was like, cool, I know my classics, I can do that. And it kind of started. He was like, dude, when he tells me later, he's like, I had no idea what I was getting into with you. But he's like, that was probably the coolest moment. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love that.
Oh, hell yeah. So how long did you have to bar back before they let you actually make drinks?
So I bar backed for probably about 8 months. I worked 4 nights a week. Bar backing for them, and after about 8 months I started training them for bartending, so knew where everything was located in the bar, was able to wash all the dishes, was able to start talking to guests, etc. And when I was behind the bar, he's like, your job is to do the bar back duties, but more than anything is to watch the bartenders. And Shane Baldwin, who's his kind of bar manager now / partner in a lot of their projects, who started with Dylan bartending at the same, small cocktail, like Italian, like a Japanese cocktail bar at the time. That kind of came with him. He's like, watch him, see how he behaves with the guests, see how he makes his drink, watch his art and his style. And I said, cool. And, bet, as the kids say. And I, just did that. And I would wash dishes, but I keep my eyes on the bartender. And I was watching everything they were doing. I was asking questions. Why'd you do that? How are you doing that? What are we using for this? Why are you using this? They want a modified drink. What is that going to do to it, kind of thing? And then taste, like straw tasting everything I could. And just kind of kept working that way. And then at 8 months, we had somebody leave the bar, and he was like, hey, I need a new opening bartender on, like, happy hour bartender on, Sunday night. And I was like, cool. And so he's like, I'm gonna throw you on. And he was there for a couple shifts. And then once I showed him that I could do it, he was, didn't have to be there. And that's where it started. And then from there, I moved up, and I was there for about 5 years. And just worked I was working about 6 days a week at that bar, 6 nights, you know, just slinging drinks.
I love a good wholesome like success story of like moving through like the ranks and actually making the drinks and like still being like super friendly and loving like the people that you work with. Like that's such a good feeling because I feel like that doesn't happen all the time in the world of hospitality. And like I'm very happy that you got to experience that and like go through the true traditional path. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel very, very lucky, very blessed that I have like the Cinderella story of, you know, maybe not the Cinderella story. What's better than this? Like I didn't get thrown to the ashes, but like I had the perfect princess treatment of like entering a bar backing my way to bartender, working there for a while, and then moving on to open my own bar. Like
I mean, it kind of is Cinderella. You know, he held out a glass and you fit it perfectly. So with the Vucare, I mean, the Vucare is the foot, John. If you're not understanding the analogy.
Thanks, Mike. I got it. Oh my god!
And
so
suddenly the duo splits.
oh, that's it. We'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, John and I are the evil stepsisters. That's what it is in this equation.
100%. No, we're the rats that help make the dress. We're Gus and whatever the other one's name is. Okay. So obviously you left there, even with it being an amazing experience and getting to learn a whole bunch from them and be around that environment. Why'd you leave? What made you pursue the next steps?
Yeah, the next steps were a little complicated just with family politics being what they were and family dynamics at the time. But I was kind of getting tired of living in Colorado Springs. It had gone through this massive boom and growth, and it was no longer the same, you know, kind of state that I was living in, you know, even 10 years prior. A lot of things were changing. It was getting super busy. There was a lot of, you know, problems showing up, and I was like, you know what? I'm kind of done with this. I want to settle down and find a space where I get to know people and really get involved in the community. The Springs had gone too big. I didn't know anybody anymore other than my little industry crew downtown, which was awesome. We have a really tight industry, but I didn't know anybody else. I didn't really have any other friends. I was working a ton, and I was like, I need to change of pace. I hated leaving the bar. I hated leaving my family in the Springs, but it was just time for me to move on and to kind of make my own way into a new project and a new place. And so I decided to move was the right move for me.
So why South Dakota?
Yeah, this question gets asked pretty much anytime I tell somebody. They're like, "Oh, you're, you know, where are you from?" I was like, you know, all over the place, but Colorado. And they're like, "Why South Dakota?" And I'm like, you know, it's a fair question. South Dakota was the right size that I needed. Not the state, the Spearfish, South Dakota, where I found, which is in the Black Hills, just kind of north of Rapid City, which is our like second largest town in city in South Dakota. It was the right size. It had about 14,000 people. It's grown a little bit since, but it was small, but still big enough that I didn't feel like I was moving into the, you know, country, but I was like still a small community. It had a ton of outdoor activities, a lot of hiking, a lot of biking, everything that I love to do and everything I loved about Colorado. It kind of had a little bit of Colorado in the Black Hills. And I was like, cool, this feels right. I like the atmosphere. I like the people. It was a small community. They were very welcoming and very, you know, just nice people. And I wanted to put down some roots where I didn't feel like I had to tear up roots again. I could like get a family, find a family, you know, settle in and just, you know, I don't know, just not be on the move all the time. And South Dakota had everything that I was looking for. Kind of a cool small spot. Plus it was a growing industry scene. The restaurant scene here is just starting to pop off. The bar scene is starting to like become interesting. People are really interested in seeing it. I was like, cool, this seems like the right market to get involved in to help raise the level.
So once you got there with all the experience that you had from Colorado Springs, you know, where did you land with like your first job there? How did you go about like basically recreating your whole new industry life in a town where you didn't really know anybody, right? So like, how did that go?
Yeah, that happened really weirdly by chance. I found a gentleman by the name of Josh Fritz, who was just taking over an old Irish pub that had been in Spearfish for, 10, 15 years. And he had just bought it and was taking it over. And he wanted to change it from an Irish pub to more just a public house with a focus more on spirits, some draft beer, and then they wanted to introduce cocktails, which really weren't a thing at the time. And this was 5 years ago now. There really wasn't a cocktail scene. There was 1 or 2 bars doing a couple drinks, but they were, your basic.
And I mean, having lived in Colorado myself for a while, there's not a lot of whole lemon trees or orange trees to get fresh juices for fresh ingredients, at least not cheaply. So it makes sense, right?
Yeah. And I talked to Fritz and I was like, hey, here's my credentials. Here's what I'm looking for. I heard you're trying to start a new bar and I hear you want to add cocktails. Here's what I can do for you, kind of thing. And he's like, wow, your resume is like way overqualified for what we're looking for, but we do need help building the bar. Do you want to get involved in like the process of helping, build it up? Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, I'll start with a new project. Let's go right in. So I started at the Spearfish Public House and we built the bar up, and I was able to help, build a cocktail menu for them and tell them the products that they need to have. I tell them the first thing I told them, I was like, the only bottle I'm going to ask that you bring in no matter what is Fernet. I'm like, you need to have Fernet on the bar for me, and he's like, what's that? I was like, you'll see. You will have more Fernet with me than anything else, I promise you, but I need to have that bottle, and then we can open the bar. Like, you can order whatever else you want. I'll work with anything, but I need to have a bottle of Fernet. He's like, all right, cool. He's like, I don't even know what that is, but I'll find it and I'll get it. I was like, I know it's in the state. I saw it somewhere.
Oh my God. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's where it started. And I helped him build that bar. We worked there for 7 to 8 months. And then the opportunity for Nona's for taking over the restaurant came along, and I kind of,
which is where you're at now, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. So
tell us about Nona's.
Nona's Kitchen is right on Main Street in Spearfish, South Dakota. We're in this beautiful old I think the building was built in 1981. It's a really old, beautiful, like sandstone building. We're right on Main Street, and our kitchen is focused on, Italian home comfort food. A lot of pasta dishes, your lasagna, your fettuccine alfredos, your spaghetti and meatballs, that kind of stuff. And then my chef does a really good job of bringing a ton of cool specials on and a lot of unique things. But it started in 2019, about a year before I moved up here, is the original owners that started it up. It was kind of a fun, hobby project for them to start a restaurant. They had money and they were like, this sounds like a cool idea. Like, we've always wanted to have a restaurant. We like cooking, and maybe this is our move. And they started that. And then, after a year and a half, realized it probably wasn't quite their favorite thing to do. And it was a lot more work than maybe it was what people expect, having never been in the restaurant industry. So I was like,
that was my question. Love it.
And they were like, yeah, probably not for us. And they wanted to move back home for them, or at least back closer to their kids, which was like Georgia, I think, and Florida. So they were like, either close the restaurant or find somebody that wants to take it over. And I came along and was like, hey, you guys have an empty space. Can I build a bar? And they're like, yeah, maybe we can partner up. But also, hey, do you want just the restaurant? And then you can build your bar. And I was like, I never thought about that. That seems like, kind of a bold move. And you know what? Screw it. I've got some time right
Italian
now.
Food. Let's do it.
Exactly. I like Italian food. Like, I can figure it out. Like, I have no restaurant experience as far as running a restaurant. I've worked in a kitchen very briefly, and I did bartending. Like, that was my background in hospitality. I was like, yeah, I can figure it out. How hard can it be? Well,
it's hard.
A year later, and like a ton of tears, sweat, and working, 15-hour days for a week, and just like pulling my hair out with, anxiety. I figured it out. We got there. We figured it out. It was just a matter of, working out the little kinks and the problems. But yeah, we got there and added cocktails. I got the liquor license added to the restaurant, was able to add cocktails finally to our restaurant, and ran that for, about 4 years, and really, got to learn how a restaurant operates and learn all of the steps of what we do in hospitality. So it's more than just bartending. It's like, okay, now I see how hospitality as a whole works. And that's the whole ecosystem.
Yeah. Do you have a particular Fernet cocktail on the menu?
Yes.
Can I hear what it is?
Is it just one, or are there like 2 or 3?
At the moment, there's just one, but our next menu I'm working on now has 2, I think, or it's gonna have 3.
It's growing.
So
it's growing.
It's growing. As more and more people start requesting it or drinking it, the more people are like, "This is really cool. I know what that is. I want to have that." My favorite, like the thing I'm most proud of, is the liquor store here. One of my buddies works at a liquor store here in town, a small one, and he goes, "We started carrying Fernet." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "We've had so many people come in and asking about it." He's like, "We've actually started like buying cases of it and we're selling it." And I was like, "Yes, my mark on Spirit for South Dakota." And like South Dakota, we've started drinking Fernet in this town. So people are taking it home with them.
if somebody brings a Fernet coin and sets it at the bar while they're sitting down for a meal, are they going to get a free shot of Fernet?
Absolutely. If anybody up here had a coin. South Dakota doesn't have
never know. They might be listening to this right now and making a trip right now.
Well, if they have a coin, then they're absolutely getting a shot and they're getting a hug because they're probably industry, and I want to know their story and their family. So
that's fair. That's 100% fair. So you've been there about, you said 4 years now at Nona's, and I know you have opened a cocktail bar too in the basement. So at what point were you like, okay, I have command of the restaurant, I'm ready to open this second kind of concept? Like, how did you know it was time? Because I know there's a lot of people out there that have restaurants and want to expand their concepts and like struggle in the day-to-day operations to move things to that. So like, how did you know like it was time to move on to the next step?
That's a really good question. I should maybe clarify. For me personally, the step was the space came available. That was the first thing. The space that was being leased at the time it was a church for a long time down here, and it was like a small little church. And it came up. They left.
You had a church in the basement of your restaurant?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there was a little church. What kind of church is this? I don't remember what type of church it was.
They worship the flying spaghetti monster. That's exactly.
Oh, come on, dude. That's terrible. That is terrible.
I've been waiting for a reference for years to slide that in. I'm so happy.
Okay, an Italian restaurant, dude.
That is brilliant. I feel kind of silly that I didn't come up with that myself. Jeez Louise.
It's okay. You can put an altar somewhere in your bar.
Yeah, we might have to at this point. But so the space came available, and I was like, I really want that space, and I think this is the space that I've been looking for. Because my goal all along, ever since I started bar backing, and that was, I don't even remember how long ago, like 2017, was to open a bar. Like as soon as I got into the industry, as soon as I realized what it was, I said, this is my life. This is what I want to do. This is who I'm going to be. I'm going to be in hospitality, and I want to be a bartender, and I want to own my own bar where I can call the shots and I can build a program that I want to see happen. The hospitality and the level of service that I look for, the type of, drinks that I want to serve. And so ever since then, my eyes have been looking, and I've been like saving money, putting things aside, building up my, my little treasure chest. So that way, when the opportunity came along, I could jump on it. And the restaurant was a great way to kind of get involved in it. It definitely helped once I figured it out after a year. It helped me, boost my budget a little bit. And then the space came available, and I told the landlord, I want that space. Like, I want it now. And so he's like, what do you want to do with it? I was like, I'm going to build a bar. And he goes, cool. There was a bar down there like 30 years ago. We can definitely I think that's a great idea. It was super successful. I think that's a good idea for you. And I was like, sweet. And so
that helps that the bones were already there. I'm sure.
And that's so plumbing. He told me that, and then I came down to the space, and there was nothing here. It was an open space. But the spirit was here still. You could feel it in the walls, and you're like, okay, this definitely has like speakeasy, prohibition vibes. Like, cool. It's got the right vibe for it. For anybody like kind of looking at it though, like the opportunity is just have good people working for you. Like really focus on your team. And for me, it was like really spending a lot of time focusing on my team in the restaurant, really setting them up for success, making sure they felt empowered to make decisions, making sure they could run their program themselves, like run their own shift, where I didn't have to be there anymore, like micromanaging, where I could step away. They could handle everything. They could handle a busy Friday night without me. And I knew that was like, okay, cool. I'm at the point now where I don't have to be here on our busiest night of the week. They can handle themselves. They know what's going on. My, chef has got control of his kitchen. My brother's my GM upstairs. He's got control of the floor. We're set. And so then I could really spend some time focusing on the next project. So putting a lot of time into your people is really important.
Yeah, well,
I
I
was about
imagine.
to say. Yeah,
go
ahead,
on.
Mike.
I was just going to say, not only is the delegation good to where you're able to free yourself up to focus on other things, but I'm sure the team respects a leader like that isn't wanting to micromanage, but wanting to empower them and give them the tools they need to be self-sufficient.
I mean, you can ask them. I don't know if they respect me, but they like me.
Give them a couple shots of Fernet, and then I'll ask them.
Well, they love it because they're like, "Ooh, a new bar for us to drink at." And I was like, "Absolutely!" And they're like, "Sweet, go for
it." Priority.
Yeah, exactly.
No, so you talked about building the right team, right? I think this is a great segue to talk about something that you mentioned you wanted to talk a little bit about in the episode too, and it's not just building a team; it's building the foundations of what a bar is, what bar culture is, what it means to be part of hospitality. You're talking a little bit about what does going back to the basics mean to you, and how could somebody who's looking to kind of re-solidify their knowledge in hospitality acquire that?
Yeah, back to basics is going back to what the bar was always supposed to be. I love all different types of bars. I love all different types of hospitality and restaurants and experiences. But when we really get down to it, the bar is and always was a place for people to get together, to have a conversation, to grow their own local community, to share a moment, to share a drink, to just unwind from work and from home life. It's that third space mentality. And I feel that we started drifting a little bit from that to kind of more experience and theme bars, or, we're worried about the image of the bar rather than, are we really taking care of the people? Are the people coming in really feeling like this is a space where I can escape from the world for a little bit and have a good drink and feel connected to my community? Mm-hmm. And so back to basics for me, and what I built this bar to be, and what I hope any bar I'm involved with in the future is, it's a place for people to gather where we worry more about them and our community as opposed to what we're doing behind the bar. Because really, we're just a bunch of, nerds. We're a bunch of pirates that just like to have, a drink and whip up some really cool, crazy concoctions. But, we take ourselves too seriously sometimes. We get so in our, little bubble that we think we're something more than we are. And we're just here to make drinks for people and have a good time and make sure they're having a good time.
So I always think that, it's always great when a leader has that mentality, whether it's a manager, an owner, even like a shift lead, something like that has that mentality of putting hospitality first and getting back to those basics. But I think it's even more important that you can teach that to your staff to get them to, 1, care about it, 2, want to replicate it, and 3, want to do it for other people, right? So what are some of the things that you have done to instill that same passion that you have into your staff? How do you get them to buy into it?
You get them to buy into it in a couple ways. One, obviously, in doing it yourself, by being that person yourself, by inspiring them by watching what you do and how you interact with your guests, and then they kind of model themselves after that. And of course, by telling them, hey, see what I did here? Do that. And kind of do what I say and what I do.
Yeah,
not
do as I say and as I do. Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, it's do what I say, not what I do. And it's like, well, no, what kind of lesson are you teaching your staff then? What kind of lesson are you teaching your kids? What are you teaching your community?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
I was just having that conversation. We did the USBG local qualifier for their new national bartending competition. We hosted the local one last night, and I was talking to one of the competitors here, small market, St. Augustine, Florida, very small, but still a tourist town, right? With lots of people coming in. They were talking about how important it is to have a bar manager who actually gets behind the bar and gets in the trenches every once in a while, because so many times you get bogged down with just doing orders, looking at spreadsheets, or meeting with different brands and tasting that you lose track of what the job actually is, managing a bar. And you have to be able to talk the talk and walk the walk. Like it's a crazy thing that so many people get lost in the sauce.
Absolutely. And I think that's one pitfall that we see so much in our hospitality industry, why there's so many, we all have horror stories of restaurants or bars we worked at, is because the ownership or the management didn't know anything about what they were doing. The owner never owned a restaurant. They just wanted to own a restaurant, but then they micromanaged everyone within the restaurant, but they didn't actually know what they were doing. Or the bar, bar manager doesn't actually know how to make a drink, or doesn't, puts his fingers in the ice, to top off the glass. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, no, you don't do that. But he's the bar manager. How? And then we all get super annoyed and, irritated with it. So being able to show your staff by actually doing it and living it. And I work every shift. I'm on the floor that we're open. Like I'm present on the floor. I don't have an office separated. I do my work on the floor with everyone. If I have to step out, cool. I'll take out a phone call, do emails, whatever, but I'm always present. And it helps them to maintain and remember their standards, because if I'm sitting there, then they can't, slack off. They can't, do something that I'm like, hey, what'd you do that for? And they're like, oh, well, and I was like, no, you use a tray. They're like, what? It was just one drink. Use a tray. But I just want to drop that. Use a tray. So it's reminding of those things. And then once they have it instilled, then I don't have to be there. I know they're going to do it. And yet it's still present. And I'm not going to, I can still work the busiest shift of the night and still beat every one of their, times.
Which is what you love. I think it was Tobin Ellis that said, as soon as the server stops saying, oh, thank God it's you when you're in the service well, it's time to hang up your apron. Like it's like, as long as you can keep, doing the hustle, like that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a follow-up question. Do they also have a reading list similar to the one Brad gave you? And do any of them try and beat your 1 week reading time for the entire list?
Fair enough. Yeah.
No. And this will go, I'm sure, with something we're going to talk about here in a bit too, but being in a very small town community, there is no trained bartenders. There are no trained, individuals who are even experienced in anything in hospitality other than, your dive bar, if they've bartended at all, or most of them are just coming to brand new college kids and if they're from anywhere in the local area, they've never seen a cocktail bar operate. They've never seen even a restaurant bar really operate at high capacity. So everyone I start with is like, we're starting from ground zero. Most of them have never worked in a bar. I'm having to start with, this is a coupe glass. This is a double rocks glass. This is whiskey. Do you know what whiskey is? Cool. We're going to start. I'm going to teach you what whiskey is. We're going to teach you about brandy. We're going to teach you about, Fernet. We're going to be doing all of these things, and we're starting from ground zero. And then I give them the book list and say, these are the books you should read, but I'm not going to force you to do it. The only thing I force them to take is their bar smarts, get the basics, do the 101 stuff, do the bar smarts, bar starts, take that program. It's a really good program to start with. And if they do that, show me that they're serious. Cool. Then I'll start teaching you. And then I give them the list.
I love bar smarts for that too, because you can take the test as many times as you want. Like, and like, even if you have someone who's not 100% invested, they can take it 20 times, but guess what they've had to do all 20 times? Read those questions and understand the answers. So at least they're getting something out of it. And it's such a good baseline. Like, I've even given employees like 25 to 50 cent raises for just completing it and giving me the certification, because it's like, cool, you tried. Like, I love that.
You're showing you have initiative. Yeah. And I tell everybody that works there, like, if you want to work behind this bar, that's the prerequisite. You have to do your bar smarts, bar starts before you can even step behind the bar. And that, or even serve. Like, you can't enter the bar without having done at least that. After that, absolutely read these books. And most of them have taken me up on it. They've maybe not read as quickly or as many, but they've taken me up. They've read the bartender's manual, or one of my, both of my current bartenders, the main ones, have read the bar book. The bar book by
Morgenthaler.
Yeah, thank you, Morgenthaler. Yeah. I was like, I know that one. I've read it so many times. Yeah,
great intro.
Yeah, and I'm like, here, read these. They're like, oh, okay, cool. So now I know how to make simple syrup. I'm like, awesome. You know at least one more step that I don't have to teach you. And then like, well, where's the sugar? Right. Okay, we'll go back to
that's an important part of the equation for sure.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things you mentioned too is building these community beverage programs within your industry. You mentioned it was a small town. There's not tons going on. So, how are you building your community around you? How are you influencing the cocktail scene in South Dakota, especially where you are?
Yeah, it's
outside of Fernet.
It's outside of Fernet, right. Outside of Fernet, it's teaching, or it's having a good classics program, which is first and foremost. Having a menu that people recognize right off the bat. One of the pages that they can look at where they can see, oh, I've heard of this drink, and these super popular ones. So a lot of the people, especially in the Black Hills, we're a very big tourist town. And so a lot of people have had experiences with people from out of state, from out of country, and they've heard of these things before, but they don't know what they are. Like, I've heard of Negroni. I've had some people ask me, but I don't know what that is, kind of thing. So the locals either have heard about them or they travel a bunch, because there's really not a lot to do up here. If you out in the winter, it's cold. It's pretty flat. It's just not a lot to do. And so they travel, they go elsewhere, and then they're like, oh, I was at this really cool bar and I saw this, and like, what is it? And so then I'm like, here, let's make one. Let's talk about it. And so the community education comes into them coming in and showing them that you have answers. And then they get super excited, because then they come back with a ton of questions, and they bring their friends and they bring a ton more questions. Like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Why are you doing that? Oh my gosh, how do you make an espresso martini? That kind of thing. And it's like being able to teach them the basics. Like my bar staff, it's just teaching the basics. And having a good portfolio, like knowing the products that are good. This is where travel. And I cannot stress enough, if you're a bartender in a small town or a small community, get out, go to BCB one time. You'll be like, your mind will be blown with the amount of product you're going to see there that you've never even considered before. But if you've tasted it and then suddenly it shows up on your Southern Glazier's like catalog, you're like, oh, I've had that. That was really cool. So you order it, you bring it in, you're super excited, you start showing it to your community, and then suddenly you have a new bottle suddenly in the middle of wherever you're at that you're really excited about, that your community starts getting excited about. And then it's kind of spreads. That it's really infectious. When you're excited about something, you really can help spread things quickly. I did that with Injun Gin. I went to BCB, and this was like 4 years ago, and got to see like the Injun Gin, which is like this really amazing Italian organic gin in a oil can. And I was like, that's really cool.
I do know what this one is.
Yeah. And I was like, and I tasted it. I was like, this is really good. And what cool packaging. Like, wow. And all of a sudden it showed up on, it's like RNDC had it. And I was like, yo, Republic's carrying this now. So I ordered it. I brought it in. And instantly I went through like a case of it, because I was showing everybody, check this new gin out that I'm so excited that we have in our state. And they're like, whoa. And now most of the liquor stores carry it. It's something we drink in the area now. And it's just because I had seen it in a big market when it was launching and was able to bring it back with me then when it showed up. Yeah, it was maybe 4 years later, but it did show up, and I was excited when it did, and it was able to help me kind of bring that to life.
Yeah, and all these liquor stores are, paying you out consulting fees for bringing in and selling all these bottles on their shelf like Fernet. So,
I wish. That would be amazing. Any brands, if you need a rep in South Dakota.
You've got the track record now. I mean, you are a local trendsetter.
It's true. At least twice.
It's just how
proven.
Exactly, twice. But yeah, that was it. And then finding other I guess the only other aspect to the community thing is then really connecting with the local bartenders here. There isn't much of a bar industry community where there's like maybe 12 total bars, and that includes restaurant bars, like bars and restaurants. And so it's like, cool, there's not a huge community, everyone kind of knows each other, but it was making the effort to really get to know everybody, going to the restaurants, going to the bars, saying hi, meeting everyone, and then starting to make connections. And then we're like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, well, I'm bartender, cool. Where do you work? I work at this bar. Awesome. Come visit them there. Or they come visit me, and I'm like, hey, welcome in. Here's your shot of Fernet. Cool. What's this? Bartender handshake. Awesome. Now I know something about our industry, and that's really cool. This is for us. That's awesome. I was like, yeah. And then, hey, have you tried, Plantaray rum? And they're like, no, I've never heard of it. And I was like, cool, try it. And they're like, wow, this is really good. I was like, yeah. And then I look, at their menu in a couple months, and there's Plantaray rum on their menu. And I was like, sweet. They made that connection. They find it. you start that little spark, and then they get excited, and then they bring it to their bar, and then you're like, dude, that's really cool, you brought that on. They're like, yeah, I love it. And then I got to meet, my distributor finally, kind of thing, and blah blah blah. And then it starts building that, that basis. And then once that starts, then everyone gets excited.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've picked up on from doing this show in particular is, especially talking to so many different brand reps, is that, whatever they're, selling these different brands, they're not just selling the spirit, they're selling the story of the spirit. And that's what gets people engaged. But there's no better story than your story about that spirit, even if it incorporates the spirit story, because you can tell it from the heart and people know you're genuine. And when you're excited about it, they get excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this with brands too. Like, the biggest thing that they can do is treat the bartenders well, take care of them, listen to the bartenders' needs. And then you have situations where you, Tobias, will fall in love with those brands because they've done something so incredible that you want to share the story, like Fernet, right? Like, those are things that transcend. It doesn't matter where you are in the US. Like, those are important things. You have a story. You see that bottle in the back bar. You're walking through the liquor store. You go into another restaurant. You feel those same emotions again. It's the same reason nostalgia has such a great effect on anything. That's why, you said you were a nerd. Star Wars is great at bringing in nostalgia constantly over and over and over again in the right way, but they keep bringing in nostalgia. They keep hooking in those fans regardless of what generation they're from. Okay, well, you're not invited to our pod race, Mike, so get out of here.
Now that's what I call pod racing.
Hey, they're coming out with a pod racing like PS5 game. I'm so stoked.
I still got the
that.
N64
GTA
version, man.
It's fine. All right, so I do want to ask one question. You mentioned going to conferences and getting out there and going to, BCB, Bar Convent, Brooklyn. But you are a second-time resident at Herd House, right? So talk to us a little bit about your experience at Herd House, why you went the first time, and maybe some things that were different between year 1 and year 2. So that way someone who is from a small market and might want to get out there and go to something like this.
Right. Well, first year was awful, but I thought, well, it's that second year camp, maybe it will be better. So I went back. No. Herd House is an absolutely incredible program. Chandler, what she's done is kind of pull the best of the conference concept, the best of the, brand interaction concept, the best of the content creation market, which is what every one of these big events is trying to do. She's been able to distill it down into the basics and made it really simple that even bartenders can figure out. I think a lot of brands forget that they're dealing with their main market is bartenders, and they put a lot of money into the influencers and into the CEOs and the bigwigs in the community, but they have such a small say in our industry that as opposed to the bartender who's interacting with his guests or with their guests every single night in their community.
It's so
talking
crazy
about their product.
We as bartenders don't follow the influencers like at all, which is like kind of crazy, except for the people that listen to this podcast, obviously. But like, you know what I mean? Like we're listening to the brands, we're listening to the actual stories. We talked about that so many times already. Like, we might see something on social media, on Instagram, but we flip through it within that 3 to 4 second window, and we're on to the next thing because we've either seen it before or 10 or 12 other people were doing it, and we watched it 3 months ago. You're so right about that. Like, that's such a cool thing. Like, I love that.
Yeah, and so what? And some of them are really good, but some of them are just too big for their own good. Sometimes it's too big of a concept that you really can't hit all of these things. It just naturally starts catering to the who knows who market. But what Herd House has been able to do, and what I've seen in the last 2 years, is bring a lot of bartenders in from totally different markets. And she's really good about bringing in, as residents at least, people each other, doing what each of us are able to something we're each able to offer, and and then really connects us with the brand in a way that's meaningful, that we actually sit down with a rep, talk to them, do a video with them, make a connection in a way that's really meaningful to us. is meaningful to them. They get something out of it because we go back home and say, dude, I just had this amazing pop-up with Herradura tequila, and I never had it before maybe, but wow, was that good. Now I'm going to carry it to my bar, and let me tell you about it. Let me show you the picture or the selfie I took with the rep. You know, let me show you the cool stuff that they did. Let me, you know, do all these things. And it's awesome. So Herd House in particular has been really good at making those really personal connections. And I know Chandler works her butt off to make it happen. And I know that it's been, you know, this last year was a very different year than the year prior. And I love to see that it changes. It's not set to one formula, which is another sign of our industry that we sometimes, we hold on to things sometimes a little too hard to like, well, this is the way it's been. It's like, yeah, but things, you know, change. And bartenders are usually pretty malleable and pretty good at picking up the next thing and moving on. Now, what I'd say from last year to this year, the changes were we did the same mindset. So in both years, it was very different, but the same mindset was there, which was looking out for each other, the residents looking out for residents, taking care of each other, really making strong, you know, connections with one another, you know, emotional and like professional connections, and like really building strong bonds. And so that part is absolutely amazing. We still have our text chain. We still text each other all the time. Like I just had a bunch of messages today from this last year's Herd House group, and we're just talking about how much we miss each other and how much we want to like go visit each other's bars, kind of thing. And it's really, you know, it's really cool. What I noticed from the year prior to this year was we spent a lot more time in this particular case working with the brands in a, you know, commercial kitchen and doing a lot of networking with the brands themselves, as opposed to working within the Herd House. It's, you know, staying in the Airbnb, just making, you know, drinks and creating videos. We actually got to really connect with the brands in a cool way. Yeah, it was. I think
for me, that's what I love the most about it. Like, you go to these big conferences and there's thousands of people. You know, you go to Tales of the Cocktail. You're not going to see everybody. Like, it's across the entire city. You go to BCB. So many huge rooms. You're tasting a whole bunch of stuff. You know, everyone gets scattered to the wind at night to different pop-ups, activations. But with Herd House, it's intimate. The people that you're there with, you get to know more than just, hey, how you doing? What are you drinking tonight? You know, like that kind of thing. You get to know a little bit about their personal lives. You get to sit with the brand ambassadors and have a lunch or dinner and have more than a cup of coffee with them. Like you're in these situations where you get to know people and make long-lasting connections, as opposed to just like that pop in, hey, hi, how are you? And I think that's what transcends it, and the fact that it stays small and it's not going to get super big, because you want it to have that organic, natural bonding feeling, which I think is really cool to watch from year to year as it continues to evolve. So like, I think that's really, really neat, and it's really cool to see that you got to experience it back to back.
Yeah, you can scratch everything I said and just keep that clip, because that's perfect. You summarized it so well. That's exactly what I was trying to say, but I just couldn't find the right words to say it. So
yeah, no, you actually wrote that. You fed that to me in your intro email with your bio. I just read what you wrote. You gave me the words. You're a true poet.
I must have been a bottle deep at the time.
I don't remember. It was the Fernet. It was the Fernet. No, it's really cool. It's totally that. Oh my gosh. Okay. We do have one of our Discord members that has a question for you, and we do have to ask. This comes from our user here. It comes from that random 479 guy, and he's saying to please ask about Herd House Ice Skate and your special Christmas presents.
Right. I don't know what they're talking about at all. No. Okay. So Ice Skate was started by Chef Chandler on the first year that I attended, which was last year's Herd House. And she decided to, hide a bunch of ices around, and a couple of us got pranked with it. And then, somebody, and we've never admitted to this,
sure,
but
absolutely.
somebody decided
the innocent
to
and the guilty,
Chef
right,
then.
Mike?
Exactly. Yeah. Somebody decided to ice Chef and hid an ice underneath her pillow. So when she got into bed at the Airbnb for the night, she reached under her pillow, found an ice, and had to then chug it at, I think it was probably 3 or 4 a.m., absolutely exhausted from a full day of, running the program.
It's better than brushing your teeth, that's what they say.
I think she had already finished brushing her teeth.
Terrible. Yeah, it's like a nice glass of orange juice after brushing your teeth.
Yeah, diabolical, man.
And then after that, it kind of exploded. And there was probably an additional 3 or 4 icings that week, because we ended up getting more at various bars and just dropping them off at each other's, lap kind of thing. Well, that started, and it was like, haha, that's great fun. Well, then somebody, I have no idea who, thought it'd be funny to mail Christmas gifts to a couple of their homies from Herd House, and amongst the gifts there might have been a bottle of ice wrapped up in bubble wrap and hidden at the bottom. So when they got their gifts, they got a little special treat for it.
Nothing like waking up Christmas morning with the family, making a nice cup of coffee while the kids open gifts, and then opening your present. And it's just the warmest bottle shaken in the mail, served, sitting probably under a tree for days, maybe weeks. It's just heartwarming. I love that.
It was very heartwarming. Well, they ended up getting me back and sent me a bottle in the mail, or sent me some bottles in the mail. And on top of that was an additional. Actually, it wasn't me. What am I talking about? Somebody pranked me and actually iced me as well randomly in the mail. And this is not a confession.
I was gonna say, yeah, you pranked yourself so you could be remain innocent. I get it. I've seen those serial killer documentaries.
Yeah,
you'll never know it was me.
Return to sender, exactly.
Return to sender, great name for a cocktail. All right, final question for you tonight. We ask every guest who comes on our show, what's your favorite shift that you've ever worked?
Favorite shift. Okay, my favorite shift that I've ever worked, and I can't think of one. It was just a series of shifts. Was I worked at a small whiskey distillery tasting room in Colorado Springs. So while I was at the archives a couple years in, I started at this whiskey room called Axe in the Oak, which is a small whiskey distillery down there. Great bottles, great booze. And they had a tasting room at an old school, in the basement of an old school, and I would go in there, and I was on their prep team. So we'd come in on Tuesday mornings at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. We'd show up, and we would prep for, maybe 6 or 7 hours for the week. And this was a decent sized bar, but we had a ton of prep work because it was a tasting room and in Colorado, if you want to serve something, you have to make something. So if you want to have Fernet, you had to make your own Fernet. If you wanted to have a Campari, you had to make your own Campari for their cocktail.
Yeah, as a distillery, right?
All the ingredients. Yeah, the distillery. Yeah, the distillery we had to make everything. So we'd go in at 9 o'clock. We'd put on a bunch of either super sad or super heavy emo, and just sad boy emo music, and we would take regular safety meetings and just prep so many things in a day. And I think about those shifts as my favorite shifts that I've ever worked, because I got to just unplug, listen to some really awesome music, make a ton of really cool stuff, and not have to talk to anyone except my buddy who was also a really nerd. So we'd get off on D&D or Star Wars or emo or whatever, and we would just sit there talking and working, and it was just the two of us. Ashton, if you listen to this, I love you, buddy. I miss you. And yeah, it was the best shifts I've ever worked. They were the happiest days.
See, we asked this question too because there's so many things that connect us. It doesn't matter where you work, doesn't matter what you do. Like in the hospitality industry, we all have some things in common. And there are so many of us that have had those prep shifts where that's what you do for the day. You jam out some music, you're hanging with your friends, and the days go by so fast because you're having so much fun doing what you love doing with those passions. That's something that transcends anything. It's such a neat thing. You've had so many great stories over the course of the show that are feel good moments. So thank you for that today. Like, I don't know how Mike's feeling over there, but I feel a little warm and fuzzy with your princess story, starting as a bar back, working your way up to restaurant and bar owner. Like,
yeah, I feel warm and fuzzy. I haven't even had a drink, so there you go. You know, it's working.
You had a couple Smirnoff Ices to warm up. I heard you got some Christmas presents.
And nobody got me yet. Not in 2026.
That's fine. Check your mail later. Oh, man. All right. We're at the end of the episode. We want to do some shout outs. And I know you've got some friends. I know you got some people you want to give some love to. So, and even yourself, tell us what who we need to check out.
Well, the people that, kind of mean the most to me. And if you were listening and you are in the area, you definitely need to go visit the archives in Colorado Springs. That's my home bar. They're still my family. They're still my homies. They're great classics cocktail bar, underground, candlelit, super dope. If you get to meet Shane or Dylan, you're meeting a real pioneer in the industry, and also a really good person and somebody that will really take good care of you. So definitely hit up the archives. If you're ever in South Dakota and you're in the Black Hills, you definitely need to come see me. Mention this episode, mention where you heard it, and then I will get you an ice for sure. And we'll start off with an ice and a Fernet.
Somebody will get you an ice.
That is terrible. Yeah.
Somebody will get you an ice. Come visit my bar. You'll get ice like right away. So come visit the restaurant. Come get some pasta. Come to the bar in the evening. Get a drink. Hang out. Absolutely. So Nona's Kitchen, which is downtown Spearfish in South Dakota, and the Tucked Tie, which is right in its basement.
Formerly the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster.
There you go.
Yeah, formerly Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. Absolutely.
You gotta do a cocktail that's Flying Spaghetti Monster.
We will, and I'm already kind of like there's already the spaghetti, so it's like we're just gonna do a spaghetti riff, add something else to it, and then we've got the Spaghetti Monster. And if I can get Maddie Rangel on it, we'll probably have a bag of pasta served alongside of it. Like
there you go.
Not cooked.
Oh no, it'll absolutely be cooked, covered in sauce, and you just eat it with a fork out of the bag.
Yeah, he's got to have pocket spaghetti. That's classic Maddie. You gotta have pocket spaghetti.
Gotta have pocket spaghetti.
Mike, any shout outs for you?
Yeah, I want to shout out Herd Card Game, which is the card game for service industry misfits, which is the inspiration behind Herd House. So if you're interested in what Chef Chandler is doing with the community and Herd House, please check out herdcardgame.com. Follow them at Herd Card Game on Instagram and socials. But she really is creating a really, really cool community. And guess what? You can be a part of it. So go and check that out. And yeah, that's my shout out. What about you, John? You got any shout outs?
I do have some lovely shout outs. One is for my favorite podcast. It's called Bardtenders. You're probably listening to it right now. You can check us out on social media at Bardtenders, or head to our website at www.bardtender.com. Amazing resources for on-the-job education, getting back to the basics like we talked about so much here on the episode. Mental health, wellness, everything. Our bards that are doing amazing stuff across the industry. So many cool things. And we want to hear from you guys. So slide into those DMs. You have my consent. Drop in there. I want to hear from you. We want to work with you. Or you can send us an email at contact@bardtender.com. We love doing cool shit with cool people. That's it at the end of the day, just like Tobias here tonight. And Mike, I heard we like one other thing.
What would that be, John?
I think it's 5-star reviews.
I think it's 5 stars only, John.
That's right. And if you leave us a 5-star review and roast us in the comments, we will read it live here in an episode for anybody to listen. But you have to leave us 5-star reviews.
Yep. Leave us your worst 5-star review and you'll get a little shout out on the episode. So make it good. Really bring the heat.
Bring the heat. Tell us everything. We want to hear it. Roast us alive. We are so ready for it. But with that, Tobias, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, it was great seeing you again, man.
Spending some time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Awesome,
Thank
man.
you. I was so excited. I was like, man, I've never been on a podcast. This is awesome. So I was super stoked. This is so cool. Thank you, guys.
We were excited. Never
so
been
much.
on a show. Has a real microphone. Has headphones. Just batting 1,000 right out of the gate.
If you're gonna do it right.
There you go.
Damn,
He probably read like 5 books on podcasting before this episode.
Brad gave him a list of how to podcast. It's better than us.
No, I listened to a podcast about how to podcast.
Exactly.
Okay, you're
Exactly.
the most meta ever. With that, I think it's time to clock out for real. We will see you guys all next time. Let's get out of here.